Well, I think I found my intro. I love VR. I love it so much that I want others who haven't tried it to get their faces stuck into that box and experience just how amazing it is these days, especially with your more affordable options to the market such as the Quest 2. I want people to realise that it isn't just a gimmick like those 3D TVs that everyone was buzzing over so many years ago, and will likely start taking over more and more game genres and areas the more adoption it sees in the market. So when my two nephews, who are ages 8 and 11, ask me if they can try out my Quest 2, I'm more than happy to let them try it out. The only trouble is, I'm not a kid anymore, so I don't really buy kids games on my Quest unless you count Beat Saber as a kid's game. All my games are either shooters, the aforementioned Beat Saber, a few racing sims, and Blade and Sorcery. So what is Blade and Sorcery? Right, let's get down to it. What is Blade and Sorcery? Well, it's a game where you fight people with bladed weapons and use spells to kill them. Okay, it's a bit more than that, but come on. With a name like that, it's hardly going to be a futuristic sci-fi dystopian game now, is it? The game is still in early access, so it's constantly being tweaked and altered, which means in a year's time it could be a completely different game, but fuck it, I want to get more content on my channel. At its core, it's an arena fighter slash dungeon crawler where you can wield melee weapons and bows and arrows of different cultures and eras and cast some of the most classic spells that you'll see in RPG games, with the vanilla game magic being that of fire, lightning and telekinesis. In the arena section of the game, you have a few different maps that you can choose from, in which you are spawned in with 2 books on the map, one of which allows you to spawn and try all the different types of weapons and defensive items such as shields to your heart's content. The other book chooses the amount and difficulty of the enemies just in case you haven't quite quenched your bloodlust yet. The dungeon crawler section of the game is just one map at present, but that still allows you for some varied gaming in that each time you load into the map, the enemy locations and types are procedurally generated. For example, the first time you load in the first area may have 3 enemies in it and you can make your way forward through the first building through to the next area, whereas the next time you go into that level there will be at least 5 enemies and all the doors in the first building are locked, so you end up spending ages trying to figure out that you need to use the secret cave in the waterfall. Now I bet you're wondering, well this just sounds like any standard melee and magic RPG style fighter like anything else I've played a million times. Well, my astute viewer, that is where you are wrong. Oh, so very wrong. Blade and Sorcery is brutal. God, Bob, that's brutal. Capital umlaut on the U. You don't need to go far on YouTube before you find Blade and Sorcery Brutality video number 3486 of a player just going to town, slicing up Achilles tendons, impaling, decapitating and amputating helpless NPCs as they are disarmed, or if the player decides to abuse the slow motion mechanic. The brutality of Blade and Sorcery. So I bought this game after watching a couple of other YouTubers review it, and I thought to myself, this looks like fun, and they talked about the mechanics of the game and the immersion and the realism. It must have been before any of the blood was added, because Jesus Christ, I was not ready. First of all, the first enemy that the game threw at me, and forgive me if I sound misogynistic here because I don't mean to, was a very slight looking woman with a dagger, and having just chosen what I can only describe as a big fucking sword, I wanted to make the fight just go over as quick as possible, so I feigned low and struck high sideways, decapitating her with the character screaming as I done so. Then the game spawned my next enemy, another warrior woman. I began to think, is this just the violence against women simulator of the Middle Ages, before slicing her arm off and making my way to the next enemy, which this time was a male character. Turns out you can set the variance of each sex of your opponent. Since I'm all for equal opportunities between sexes, I've left mine at 50-50. I believe that the main source of brutality in Blade and Sorcery is that the NPCs move like they don't actually want to die. Now that might sound stupid at first, but when you think about it, most video games out there, be it a shooter, RPG, action, story, whatever, usually you find that you're going to come across some sort of brain dead AI. Or you're going to come up against games where you don't have to worry about the enemy actually blocking your attacks and you're just chipping at a health bar. Blade and Sorcery, however, has an AI that actually reacts to your movement. Since you're actually moving your arms and hands with it being in VR, you can therefore be much more unpredictable as compared to saying having 3 attack buttons. If you load up the game, go up to an enemy and just move your weapon around near them and just watch as they move their weapon or shield in time with you and be ready to parry or block your move. It really helps with the immersion when you're playing. However, this also helps up with the brutality of the game too. Now it's giving off the feeling of the character actually having some self-preservation. They don't actually want to be killed off and will actually fight back.
I got you, brother. Oh, no, you don't. What are you doing?
So when you get to use your force powers to hold their sword wielding hand out so you can run up to them and cut it off, you really get the feeling this character wants to get away when you see them pulling away in fear. I haven't even mentioned the assassination style kills you can pull off. Want to be sneaky? Okay then, well in Blade and Sorcery you can crouch down, sneak up slowly to your enemy, jump up, grab their head, rake it back and slide a dagger under their chin while whispering sweet nothings into their ear. Or you can move in the shadows, slip out when they are unexpecting, knock their legs to the side, bringing them to the ground and then plunging your weapon through their eye socket. You can lure your opponent in, wait for them to take a long swipe at you, move in after their attack misses, grab their arm, slap the weapon out their hand and then just grab their head and smash it into the ground repeatedly. You can throw any weapon, you can shoot them in the throat, you can impale them with a spear off the side of a cliff, you can kick them off the side of a waterfall, you can do almost anything your twisted mind can think of. This is what in my mind makes Blade and Sorcery so brutal, because if you can think of something to do with the weapons and layout of the game, you can basically do it. Is Blade and Sorcery a good game? Oh fuck yeah. Now I know what I've been saying might actually sound a bit like a PSA to stay away from such a horrific thing, but fuck no, this game is awesome. I just wouldn't let my child play it. There's a difference there. It's definitely meant for a more mature audience and it shows. I mean, I would almost say Gone is more aimed at kids if it wasn't even more gory than this game, but that's mainly due to its more cartoonish art style. Blade and Sorcery is, especially for a game still in early access, a very well polished game in the gameplay department. Not completely polished however, as I can still get stuck in enemies if there's a group of them attacking me and I try to go in close to fight them, as you don't just pass through things in this game, you actually connect to them. This may be done for that realism that VR games always strive for, but in reality I know that my actual arm has gone about a foot further down. The overall gameplay, however, is really fun, and I haven't even talked about the bloody force powers your character has, and oh boy, let me elaborate on that point a bit further. If you lose your weapon or throw it and miss, or hell, if an enemy drops one that you want, you don't need to hinder yourself with the effort of bending down and trying to pick it up and end up face planting the floor. You can cosplay as Luke Skywalker in the Wampa Cave and use the Force to pick up whatever you want from the floor. Well, within reason. You can lift weapons up, bring them to you, push them further away, lift them up so they are behind an enemy, then pull them towards you so they stick in their back. Or you can activate the I win mechanic on the game and make the weapon just fucking spin in midair and then control it with your force powers and not let anyone get near you ever again. Weapons allow you to hold them in either one hand or two if possible, and you can navigate them in your hands as if you were doing that in real life. You can half sword, there's two-handed axe with a hand grip in the blade that lets you just punch an enemy. You can hold staves at different heights, whether you want to keep enemies at bay or get in close and smash their heads in when they're on the floor. You can hold knives or swords, front hand or back hand, and switch it if you're dexterous enough. Now let's talk about the most well-known mod for this game. It was obvious from the get-go that this game is going to end up with a Star Wars mod. The fact that your character already has the Force is enough to see what would get done, and oh lord, whoever made this mod went all out. Not only have they given us a generic lightsaber number 66, they've also given us every fucking lightsaber in the lore, I believe. I've never heard of half of these. They all have names and a fair few have specific quirks, such as the Inquisitor's lightsaber that you can do that spinny thing with. There's a dual blade lightsabers that can be activated on either one side or both. There's even a scythe lightsaber. Never before have I seen this and so much more. You can even change out the kyber crystals to change the colour of your blade. The mod also includes for basically every blaster I've seen from all three trilogies, as well as helmets that, as far as I can tell, is only if you have a multiplayer mod because you can't see your own head. The Star Wars mod pack also includes for some more maps, including Mos Eisley and Kamino, which are hella fun. You don't really get any extra skins for NPCs, so you just get generic characters, so say bounty hunters, but they make Tusken Raider sounds when they die, and then the mage NPCs act as your Jedi or Sith enemies and are given lightsabers to wield. Obviously, when you have a lightsaber in your hand, the damage of the weapon is dialed up to 11. Now basically, any hit is a kill hit, and if you hit an arm, leg or head, well, it's coming off. Somehow though, I would say this doesn't actually add to the brutality of the game. Something about killing an NPC with a sword, mace, axe or spear feels more brutal than using a blade that would cauterize any wound it creates and liquefy any organs in the vicinity of the wound. Well, I hope this video has been as fun for you as it has been for me making it. I also hope that it's given you an idea of how fun Blade and Sorcery can be if you ever feel like you need to take out your rage on the general populace. I intend to keep making videos like this, as well as getting back into making airsoft videos again, so let me know if this is the kind of content you enjoy, and I'm always willing to listen to feedback. Cheers.
Come on, you know you... Can't you... There we go. That was unnecessarily